What would happen if you stopped eating bread for the next 30 days? Let's find out. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Ask Dr. Pickel show. All right. So, what would happen if you just said, hey, next 30 days, no bread at all. I'm not going to do it, and I'm going to see how things go. What's going to work against you? Number one, we'll talk about that. Are you going to get deficient in something? Are you missing something? Do you need bread? Is it an essential part of your life that you have to have? So let's dive right in with that. And first, let's talk about bread itself. So, the thing to know too is what's in this stuff, bread, and how essential is it to our daily life? So, bread basically is made of starches, or we can call them complex carbohydrates. Another word would be polysaccharides. So, when we eat bread, basically bread turns into sugars. Now, the thing is these sugars, when it's what's called a polysaccharide, a starch or a complex carbohydrate, this is many sugars that are bound together. They're all a bunch of bonds holding these sugars together. So it takes a while for those bonds to kind of break down as this bread goes through our small intestine and digests. So the thing is it's released a little slower than if I were to eat a piece of candy. Because if I eat a piece of candy, and that sugar enters my gut like lightning. But the bread, of course, is going to enter a slower rate. So, this can have less impact on things, but it still comes down to sugar. Now, bread not only has sugar, which we'll talk about more here, but bread also contains, as you know, a protein called gluten. Actually, the word for it is gliadin. And, this has, of course, been the buzzword for a while here. And then bread also contains fiber, which actually can be a great thing. Bread also, like we said, contains sugars, or what we would call a starch. Bread also contains what are called conditioners, which, yes, these are just added chemicals. And bread also contains antifungals. Now, these antifungals are to prevent bread from molding. So if you bake like a fresh loaf of bread in the oven, you pull it out, leave it sitting there for maybe like over a day or so, maybe 2 days, 3 days, it's going to start to mold actually pretty quick. But if you buy that loaf of processed bread at the grocery store and you leave it in your cabinet for quite a while, you'll be amazed how it doesn't turn green. It doesn't really mold. Yeah, these antifungals. Now, are antifungals good for the human body? Not at all. They're actually very toxic. All right. And then also bread contains herbicides and pesticides. So when they're growing wheat or any grain, they've got to spray it with herbicides and pesticides, prevent the bugs from eating it, prevent the other weeds from growing. So all this gets into the bread also. Is this good for us? No. Herbicides and pesticides are called endocrine disruptors. They mess up our hormonal systems, but also they can affect our nervous system and immune system. So they're just not good overall either. Now, also, bread contains what are called lectins and phytates. Again, these are not the best either. A lot of people have allergy responses to these lectins, and these lectins can also create other problems with the lining of the gut. But also these phytates, what's called phytic acid, this stuff can bind to minerals. So, you're eating this bread. Let's say you bought this packaged bread and it says fortified with calcium and magnesium and all these other vitamins and minerals. Well, that's because, first of all, when they processed your bread, your grains, all that got cooked out. So they had to re-add that stuff back in there. But then when you eat it, these phytates bind to the minerals and pull them into the toilet. So you basically don't get them anyway. Or if you're eating something healthy along with your bread, it can also bind onto those other minerals and pull them out too. So again, just knowing what bread contains, already there's a problem. So let's go to the next potential problem with bread, and that's that bread can affect the lining of your immune system in your gut. So our whole gut, let's put it this way, our gut has about 75% of our immune system in it. And this is very important because our gut faces the outside world. We eat things, this is the outside world to a degree. And so the thing is this immune system in your gut can become reactive to these types of proteins because grains have changed over the years, especially like wheat. Now it's genetically modified. It's got these chemicals on it. It's got these other things. So, our immune system can start to flag or tag these proteins and say, hey, I don't like that. Something's not right about it. Attack it. And suddenly we have this intolerance. Now, some people actually have an autoimmune condition called celiac disease, where their immune system attacks gluten and then says, hey, that looks a lot like the small intestinal wall. Attack it too. Now you have your own immune system attacking your small intestinal wall, which is not good at all. But again, with gluten intolerance or sensitivity, yeah, you still get a lot of inflammation, and that can, of course, cause all kinds of problems too. So there is this immune system component. And what we find in the research, in fact, they show that many people who have gut issues like IBS, Crohn's, colitis, SIBO, even leaky gut type issues, many of these people take breads or gluten out of their diet, and they're like, wow, I feel so much better. Now, if you don't have these issues and you never reacted to bread, you're going to say, well, hey, I really, it doesn't bother me like that, because many of these people, they'll eat it, and before you know it, they're probably having diarrhea or a bad headache or, some other, maybe a skin rash or something else from just eating something like this. All right. The other issue with bread is not just immune, but it's on your blood sugar. So when you eat this bread, like I said, it breaks down, turns into sugar, goes into your gut quickly because it's just a tiny molecule. It can get right through. And then what happens is if our blood sugar rises, insulin rises at the same time. So as I eat a lot of bread on a regular basis, I'm getting regular spikes in insulin, and that starts to cause insulin resistance. And that leads to prediabetes and diabetic type issues, which we do not want because of that insulin resistance. And then there's actually, this can even lead to leptin resistance from eating bread, because what happens is bread in itself inhibits, some things in bread inhibit leptin, and leptin is what helps to make us feel full. So let's say I'm eating a big meal, but I'm eating bread along with it. It's like, gosh, I can keep eating this stuff. I just don't quite feel full yet, maybe as opposed to you're eating something else. So again, if you block that leptin, yeah, you're going to really rise your blood sugar because you're not getting the hunger signal. So another potential issue there. Now, here's the thing, is some people are just, bread, they love it. You hear a person say, I love bread. Bread is just amazing. It's wonderful. The sight of certain bread products, they got it here for it. So the thing is these people are basically addicted to bread. I call it breadicted. And so the thing is why? Why does this occur? So basically that protein we were talking about that's in bread is called gluten. Gluten actually turns into a morphine derivative called gluteomorphin. And this gluteomorphin can pass the blood-brain barrier. And when it hits the brain, it goes to these areas in our brain that are called opiate receptors. These are the same receptors that, let's say if a person did heroin, that would affect those opiate receptors. Well, this addiction can be just as strong. In fact, a good example of this is I had a younger patient, is actually a child. And what we found is, we had to remove gluten out of his diet because of his condition. And one night in the middle of the night, his mom woke up hearing all this noise. I think it was like about 2 or 3 a.m. She went downstairs to the kitchen, and he had a bag of bread sitting in front of him, sitting on the floor. She goes, it was like he was an addict. Well, this is what was occurring, this gluteomorphin response. So again, if you just are like, gosh, I got to have my bread. I just love that bread, the sight of it, the smell of it, the taste of it. When I eat it, it makes me feel good. Oh, this is gluteomorphin. So you may have a problem getting off of bread. You may actually have to go through withdrawal. And some people actually, when they stop eating bread, they do go through a withdrawal, just like if they were addicted to something else. So what if you said, hey, I'm not going to eat the bread for 30 days. I'm going to see how I do off of it. So what's going to happen? Well, number one, a few things are going to happen. First of all, you'll probably notice less bloating in your gut, because when you eat these breads and they cause even just a mild amount of gut inflammation, this is causing the gut bacteria to actually eat these sugars more. And especially if it's in the large intestine, if those polysaccharides make it all the way to the large intestine, then you're going to get fermentation in your gut. You'll get gases and bloating. Also, if you get gut inflammation, you're going to get bloated after eating. And some people say, oh, I'm just full, or I feel pregnant after I eat. This may be one of the factors. All right. Also, you're going to start to absorb minerals well. You're going to start to absorb zinc better, calcium better, magnesium better, even iron. These are all things that bread can prevent from absorbing properly. And then what's going to happen too is you're going to find you may have less brain fog. You may be able to focus and concentrate better. You may actually have a better memory. Here's the thing. Is gut inflammation causes brain inflammation. Number one, that goes hand in hand. But also, if your immune system reacts to this gluten, the bread, immediate brain inflammation. Well, immediate or delayed. Let's put it this way. You may eat some bread, but you may not react immediately. Actually, with the immune system, there's about a 72-hour window. So it may be like day 3 and you're like, I ate bread 2 days ago. It didn't really seem to bother me. But today I just feel lousy. So again, this can be what actually happens in this case. And also you may notice, hey, I can focus and concentrate better. Now, another thing you may even notice is because gluten can have an effect on some people in their cerebellum. This is your balance and coordination area. So you may find out that even improves. All right. And then another thing too is if you take out bread, you may find that you are less depressed or less anxious because, again, we make neurotransmitters in our gut just like we do in our brain. And gut inflammation, brain inflammation go together. So this can affect our mood in a big way. Very interesting there. A lot of people don't correlate the emotional side with this. And then you also less pain and inflammation. So as you lower these grains in the body, you're lowering inflammation actually globally in the body. And a lot of you are like, hey, some of my chronic pain went away that I've had for years. Also, you may notice more energy because you're not feeding these polysaccharides, these sugars and carbs into your body so often. Your blood sugar actually starts to improve and become more efficient. So you're actually manufacturing energy better and also maybe feeling less tired after meals. And then you may notice more weight loss because you're decreasing insulin resistance. You're decreasing the sugars hitting your bloodstream, causing these insulin tidal waves. And so your body is kind of, it's saying, hey, now I don't have all this blood sugar I've got to store away for later because, I've got all this insulin floating around and all this blood sugar that I can't get into my cells. So then weight loss can occur. All right. And another thing too is if that starts to occur, then you may notice that your diabetic issues, your pre-diabetic issues start to decrease. Actually, going off of bread for 30 days can actually have a very positive effect on your hemoglobin A1C on your blood. So your doctor may even start to notice, hey, your blood sugar is doing a lot better. What are you doing different? And you say, hey, I stopped bread. Why didn't you tell me that, doc? All right. And then also, if that starts to occur and inflammation drops in your body, then you may even notice that cholesterol levels start to get improved. Actually, your LDL, your bad cholesterol, should start to go down. And another thing that can occur is your ability, or you have more available vitamin E, which helps to prevent vascular disease, an important antioxidant, and your B vitamins actually start to go up because they're burned out or burned through as you're processing the bread. And also, of course, the gut inflammation can start to inhibit their absorption. So you'll start to find all kinds of potential benefits from stopping bread. So, if you do stop for 30 days, see how you do. See if you notice changes, write these changes down, and what kind of differences you noticed over a period of time. And then after that 30 days, you can kind of say, hey, do I want to go back on this stuff? Do I want to stop it? Do I? And then, sometimes when people start to go back, they're like, hey, I went off for the 30 days. I want to try it again just to see how I feel. They'll be like, gosh, it doesn't taste the same. In fact, it doesn't taste that great at all. Their taste changes. In fact, their taste for a lot of sugars and sweets starts to change. And again, even desire goes down. That gluteomorphin, that morphine type response starts to go away. That addiction starts to go away. So with all these potential benefits of being off bread, it's up to you. Is this something that's worth it? All right. Well, hopefully everybody enjoyed that. God bless. And I'll see you on the next video. And then this next video that's going to come up, I think you'll like it quite a bit. So talk to you soon.